Hey guys, today I wanted to make a video on the club near and dear to my heart, Walsall FC. They've always been like my family club. My mum and dad Walsall fans, and I mean I've been to the playoff final as a kid in Cardiff, Johnson Paint Trophy at Wembley, followed them through the league, through the Merson era into the Championship, been to quite a few games each season. I'm currently a Tamworth fan since sort of moving here. I haven't ever settled on one particular club. Walsall was always like the family club, so they were always the one I'd go to. But when I moved to Tamworth sort of became my club. And I know a lot of people, like, you can't have two clubs, but I mean, I go to and watch quite a lot of Walsall games as well. So I like to think that maybe I could bridge the gap there a little bit, because I'm sort of passionate about both. And the current plight of Walsall, I just find really, really sad. Come the turn of the year, they had like a 27 plus goal difference, game in hand, 12 points clear at the top. Everything was looking rosy, and everyone was firing as well. And I think the thing that's been like neglected to be said is that when Nathan went back on the 12th of Jan, it wasn't just the impact of his leaving left. He linked up the play so well. He also brought out the best of Barrett. He also brought out the best of Jamil Matt, who hasn't really ever returned to the same kind of level since. Obviously, Jellis was playing at a higher level at that point. So a lot of the team dynamic has suffered. A lot of the build-up play, the forward play, and other people's general level of play have dropped since Nathan went. Prior to him going, obviously, he finished with a goal on the 5-1 win against Tranmere. They went on next game to lose 4-2 to Peterborough in that Football League trophy. And then the following game after that was the 4-2 win against MK Dons. So the initial reaction to Nathan going was actually, the first one was like a positive one. And MK Dons, I mean, they're no joke of a team at this level. They've been Championship in recent history as well. So things looked okay at that point, and it was all about what recruitment Walsall would do, how much they'd potentially invest, because when the new owners came in, there was a bit more talk about a bit more money being available and a bit more ambition and various other things. And it's just such a bizarre time to see a club top of the league, yet so much talk about the manager being out. When I've been to matches and I've spoken to fans, it seems such a massive mix, and I couldn't even tell you the percentage for and against. There's a lot of people that don't like Sadler, and no matter what he does, that won't happen. A lot of other people obviously think he's great, he's got his top of the league, he's exceeding expectations, and he is going to be the one to sort of start the rebirth of Walsall, maybe potentially coming back to, I think, where they belong. I think, I mean, I love Walsall as a place. I have family from there, and I'd absolutely love them to come back to being like a Championship club. It was such a short spell in history, and it's just a shame it hasn't happened since. So I was genuinely optimistic in January that this would be the season that they finally get out of this league and start the climb back up the ladder. But then we obviously have had a huge issue since. So I just wanted to address a couple of things, really. I wanted to talk about the recruitment and also the lack of form since. A few things that I found completely baffling was the treatment of Danny Johnson. He hasn't appeared to be injured. I think he might have had the odd kind of a virus at a point or something, but he has been visually frustrated as substitutions. I've noticed when he's warming up and other people are called on, you can see the I don't know if it's resentment or anger or frustration, but you can see it in his face. And that was even in January when things were going well. He obviously really wanted to play, really wanted a chance to impact games, but he just wasn't being given the opportunities. So now that they're kind of desperate and they're scrambling for someone to score goals, they're turning to him. And the guy's got no confidence. Like, you wouldn't have, would you? I mean, you have that great season that was impacted by Mansfield not playing ball and learning him back, and then you get him permanently and you think great, and then obviously it doesn't work out that way for some reason. I don't know if him and Sadler have got beef, or if maybe Danny Johnson ran over his dog. I just haven't got a clue at all why there was such a disconnect with that. So that was the one mystery that I think has confounded. When I've spoken to other people, there's always been a bit of a clamouring because he's a bit of a club favourite, Johnson. So it's never really made complete sense of why Walsall chose to go that direction since. So following the match on the 18th of January, the 4-2 with MK Dons, everything was looking rosy. It looked like a dead cert at that point that Walsall were going to win the league. No one was getting close. Game after game, Walsall were just outpowering them, outmanoeuvring them. All the tactics always looked pretty much spot on. I mean, some of the goals Nathan scored were pretty much out of nothing. He just had a phenomenal engine on him, that lad, and such an amazing attitude. I remember watching the Tranmere game, and him and Jamil Matt did an interview afterwards where you could tell he didn't want to go, Nathan. He did the whole, oh, yeah, I'll apply myself wherever I go, and Stoke's a big team. But you could tell he didn't want to go. You could see the relationship between him and Matt. And Matt must be frustrated as well, because it can't be fun when you're in that form and then you just drop off. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Jealous. I've watched nearly every game he was at Tamworth in. And the lad was incredible. His attitude, his work rate, his desire, his passion, and he more than deserved to go to a brilliant club like Walsall. And it all started off pretty much rosy. And I know there was rumours of a move to Wickham and various other things, and fans claimed his head had been turned, and he's had to come out and deny that. Personally, from just knowing him as a guy and how he played at Tamworth, he's a very focused and professional person. So I think maybe the dip in form was still related to having who he links up with and his relationship suffering. Now Nathan's gone, he didn't link up as well with other forwards that they've had, and his deliveries have been a bit chaotic. I think corners haven't been as great as they could have been, but I mean, I'd always want Jealous in a team because of his heart, his desire, his passion, his work rate. He has had bad games, but I mean, so has everyone. And I'm not going to act like he's perfect just because he's my favourite player. But it's just been a real shame that he hasn't maybe stepped up a little bit more with the goals and stuff, because he's got a great shot on him. He reads the game really well. So that's been a real disappointment. So since the MK Dons match on the 18th, Walsall would be sitting, if the season just started then, so there was a split, so the 15 games since then, Walsall would be sitting 17th in the table. They'd have played 15 games, they have won only 3 of the 15, they have drawn 7, lost 5. I mean, the 7 in the middle, because you're one more goal in those games, and that could potentially be wins. But at the end of the day, they haven't been wins, they've been draws. And frankly, that form is frustrating, not good enough, and could be part of one of the biggest bottle jobs in recent Football League history, which would be an absolute shame, because the guys don't deserve it. It's just real shame. I know there's a lot of frustration at Stoke for taking Lowe back. He's played 9 games, scored 1 goal, got no assists, averaging 50 to 55 minutes a game. He's not been effective. It was clear and obvious that the Championship was probably going to be a bit above him at this stage. And to take away a young lad's chance of getting a golden boot, potential player of the season, young player of the season and potentially a winner's medal, I think was short-sighted by Stoke, not only for Lowe's development but also for his core value, because the value of him with that sort of pedigree will raise significantly, because then you're going to get League One clubs that will probably pay a premium because of the quality he's done in that. Whereas now his value's dropped, his confidence has dropped, he's not playing the same, he's being asked to play in a different way, and it's just not suiting him how Stoke are using him. And now he's back on the bench. Amadi, who they got from Ipswich, who really, when they signed him, they should have lent and just admitted a mistake then and sent Lowe back to Walsall, because you can only play for the two clubs. The choice was either stay at Stoke, knowing that your game time's going to be limited and you're not going to get the progression that you need, or just send you back onto Walsall and carry it on. I mean, with his attitude and his personality, I think he'd have carried on where he left off, even with a couple of weeks back at Stoke. I don't think he was wanted back, because when they took them both on trial, it was very peculiar that they didn't instantly take them then. It was almost like a knee-jerk reaction to fans saying, we've got this young lad who's doing remarkably well, we're struggling for goals, why aren't we bringing him back? Which I can understand, because you've got to placate fans, you've got to show that you're doing everything you can to sort of get out of a situation. But in my view, you always got to be fair to the player, and it wasn't just a bitterness from Walsall losing out. He did feel genuinely sad that he could have missed out on one of the best seasons that he could potentially ever have in his career. I have every faith that he'll go on to be a success. He's got the right attitude, good head on his shoulders. It's just like a real shame that, say, like with what Walsall did with Stansfield, Walsall couldn't pull out a bit of a thing and just buy him. I mean, he'd have been cheaper than that Macris guy was from Cyprus all those years ago. So, yeah, that's a real shame. So looking at it now, after the last 15 games, you're sort of looking at 16 points. So 1 point, I think it was like 1.07 points per game, which just really isn't acceptable. The being -3 goal difference in that time. You had 20 goals in 15 games and conceded 23. Again, not remarkably bad, but he'd be sitting 17th in the form table with that, and it's just not good enough. What frustrated me the most was, and I understand that all the frustration came at Stoke and at Lowe going. However, for me, a football club should be proactive, should be reactive, and also should be logical. There was a lot of common sense to tell you that Lowe was either going to get signed by maybe someone like a Wrexham or a Birmingham, who have seen how well he's doing and maybe would poach him to their level when they've got this sort of money free, or return to Stoke. Just to clear something up, if you can hear a weird sound in it, my dog is there and he is snoring. So coming into end of November, December time, to me, it was abundantly obvious that Lowe wasn't going to last the season. I couldn't see a way they were going to get through January whilst keeping him, which was just a real shame. And most Stoke fans I spoke to felt the same. They were like, they really wanted to see him have this like mega season at Walsall and come back to Stoke next year and attack it again, or another season at Walsall in the league higher up, and then reassess where it is there, because he'd have been comfortable at Walsall. And 2 seasons progression, you just don't know where it could have gone. And it's really sad when you do the what ifs and possibilities, because that's what haunts you as a football fan. But when it got close to December, January time, I tweeted out a few things at Walsall, just truthfully, because like I enjoy reading about. I mean, I'm a lower league football fan and I'm quite aware of the players that are doing well at that level. And I just wanted to go through a few of the options that potentially could have had in January for cheap amounts, what they've done, and things like that. So in the National League, when I was looking at it, you had Kevin Lisby's son, Kyrell Lisby, who's 21. He scored 10 goals for Braintree and a couple of assists. He'd have been next to nothing. The one that I was quite keen on was Owen Aseni, who is an Irish kid who was a Derby youth. He was 21. He had 13 goals and an assist, and he ended up going to St Mirren from Gateshead. But again, Walsall could have preempted the loan for Stoke being cancelled and sort of gone for someone like Aseni before the window had started, just so you had that extra body in the door. I think he wouldn't have cost anything much more than 110k, and a 21-year-old with a bit of a pedigree doing well, scoring goals, you could have left him at Gateshead until Lowe went back, or just took him back in and tried to blood him in. When they signed Jellis and Barrett, you thought the youngsters from the lower leagues with the direction the transfers were going, but for some reason then they chose to sign Levi Amanci, who doesn't look too bad, I guess, but I mean, he's done 2 goals this season overall. He had one good season, which was in 2023, where I think he hit 13 in 20 for Maidstone. You signed Ethan Wheatley, Manchester United kid. He has signed a new contract, which would give you the thought to think that they must have a little bit of faith with him, because a lot of kids get released every cycle, every end of the season. So if he was one of them, he could potentially be someone who wasn't at the level Walsall needed. But the fact that he signed a new 4-year deal would indicate that he's got something, and he's an England youth. So the logical thing for Sadler to do then is to never include him in the teams, realistically, which is what he's gone on to do. He played a couple. He didn't look particularly great, but he needed to get first team game time. But then he's just sort of been excluded from the squad, even though he sort of played for England. So again, utterly bizarre. And then the third striker they brought in was Ellis Harrison, who's only got 5 goals this season. Hasn't ever really been particularly prolific. I think he had a okay spell at Port Vale a couple of years ago, but none of them three were ever going to be the answer. One was, they sort of got one young, one in the middle, and one a bit older, in the hope that one of them would click. It stunk of panic buying, it stunk of no scouting, it stunk of no research. Sadler gives his generic, oh, I'm aware of the players, I think I can get the best out of them, but it's clear Sadler isn't a manager who can get the best out of people. The player just does it through themselves, through their own attitude. I've not seen many indications of Sadler being able to motivate good performances out of them, because otherwise this form wouldn't have gone on for this long. I know there's been injuries to people like George Hall and other ones that could have had a bit more of an impact going forward. But going through this list here, so going to the National North, you've got Charlie Caton, who also moved on to a league team. He had 14 goals, 2 assists at Chester. Callum Stewart, 18 goals, 1 assist at Leamington. These are both 22, 23. So no one I've said at the moment is over 23. And there was Will Davis in the National League, 18 goals, 3 assists for Sutton, who was 25. That is pretty much the oldest so far. And then the top scorer in the National League North, 27-year-old Paul Blackett, South Shields, 22 goals, 6 assists, so 28 goal involvements in 34 games. Why on earth wouldn't you go for that? Because one of the most important characteristics of the signing is signing someone with confidence that can hit the ground running. None of these guys they brought in had any confidence, because their recent seasons hadn't been good enough. They were coming in to prove a point, and for me, that's too much of a gamble. When you're at the top of the league, you need someone to come in with confidence, who's been scoring goals, so it's natural to them. Granted, don't get me wrong, I'm aware that there's levels to everything, but we've seen enough National League, North, South strikers and players go on and do well in League One, League Two. So it's not beyond the realms to think that people like Caton, Blackett, Stewart, Aseni could have gone on and done well for Walsall. Plus, they'd have held the value being young and potentially being good investments for the future. So I'm not saying I know all the answers. I'm not saying any of them would have worked out perfectly. We don't know. It's football. But logically speaking, these would have been safer, bets with the potential of future revenue and future benefits as well. So it feels more of a win-win thing to do. You could have bolstered the midfield. There's Isaac Fletcher, who was at Spennymoor, 10 goals, 3 assists. You got wingers on the right and left. Kyle Crossley, 20-year-old, South Shields, 9 goals, 7 assists. Callum Roberts, 27 at Scunthorpe, 19 goals, 10 assists. So you could play them on the wide bits of midfield to take a bit of pressure off the attacking of Gordon and Barrett, or if they needed rest, you could sort of jig it around and have them change the formation a bit, because all of those guys are consistently scoring and assisting and going for goals. So I just, again, any of those could have been a potential benefit to the team, and they would have come in with the confidence, which is something you really can't buy unless you get someone who's in form. Just signing for a new club you think should be motivation, but as we've seen, bar little flashes and stuff, none of them have particularly shone brightly for Walsall so far. I went to the National League South as well. The one I'd have recommended getting was someone who had a loan spell with Walsall not too long ago, Danny Cashman. Didn't have the greatest spell, but this season, 15 goals, 9 assists. He's 24. He's from like the Brighton Academy. That's a good return. Someone who's been at the club, so there'd have been a bit of a familiarity there. He'd have been another one. There's Slavy Spazov, 13 goals, 5 assists from Slough. Aaron Blair, 16 goal, 9 assists from Maidstone. George Alexander, 24, 21 goals, 2 assists from Eastbourne, who aren't a huge club, so he's potentially playing higher than his level. And then the top scorer of Dorking, which was Alfie Rutherford, who is 17 goals and 5 assists. Again, dropping into the midfield, you have Josh Hedges, 9 goals, 8 assists. Kane Critchlow, 11 goals, 4 assists. One of them 21, one of them 24. And another couple of wingers, 24-year-old Jays Kabir from Truro with 13 goals and 9 assists. And Osman Foyo, who has moved on to Wimbledon, but was seen as a 20-year-old with 12 goals, 2 assists for his club in the National League South. So I know I've reeled off a lot of information, but there's a group there of sort of 10, 15 players that all of them under 25, all of them having the best seasons of their career, all of them having confidence, a lot of them being double-footed, a lot of them being able to play anywhere across the top line, a lot of versatility. The midfielders in particular could play centre attacking midfield, centre midfield. I look through the positions, they'd sort of fit the structures, and the wingers themselves had defensive experience from other spells at other clubs. So they're all ones that could have potentially gone into it, and I wouldn't have think, especially from the north and south, you wouldn't have been looking at huge amounts for most of those, because I'd say most of them would want to make the step up because the dream is to be a professional footballer. You rarely in the north and south are going to be at a pro club, so that could have been a massive benefit to them. It could have been a good pulling technique for Walsall to get the players in. Look, I mean, potentially you're joining a League One club now, because if you sign for us, we're going to get promoted, etc. The confidence was there. So with a little bit of investment, a little basic sort of scouting, looking at people's stats, you could see that there was enough young talent out there that you could have invested in, that even if you hadn't worked out, the season that they'd have had would have still meant you could have resold on for money, or developed them, sold them on for a profit, or just benefited from them and started building a squad full of younger kids from the lower leagues, which is what I thought was going to be the restructured transfer directive after, obviously, like we said earlier, Barrett and Jellis. So tonight is Doncaster, which is a worrying one. It's Doncaster and Port Vale, I think, are the next two, which are quite worrying. I mean, they got the 1-1 result with the Taylor Allen free kick, which I think was great, because that could have... I mean, we're lucky a bit that the form of other clubs has faltered at key moments, and it's kept Walsall at the top, because realistically, a lot of the other teams have faltered a lot, which has kept Walsall top. because the gap could have bridged a lot quicker than it has. I mean, we're in April now, so it's not exactly like too long left of the season. And I just get, as much as it saddens me with Lowe, as much anger as I had at Stoke, I also have a massive level of frustration in terms of Walsall owners, again, not scouting, not investing, not looking at what's slapping them in the face, what could have benefited them in more ways than one, on the pitch, off the pitch, financially. Yet they decided not to do it, go for frees or loans or cheap players who were never going to benefit. There was a slight chance one of them was going to come in, but none of those players sparked any positivity in me to think that they were going to be the answer to Lowe not being there. Signing 3 was scattergun, and also made me think that it was more panic, getting numbers in for cheap rather than getting a quality person in. I mean, it was just very, very infuriating. Sadler, I find a very delusional guy. I think he's petrified that this season's going to fall apart. I don't think he's got a clue on how to alter it. I don't think he's very versatile in coming up with a plan B. I don't think he's motivating or getting the best out of players. I don't think he's been able to turn it around or change the attitude within the camp. I think he's delusional in his interviews, where he's claiming that they're not, Walsall aren't in a bad spell, or one isn't a slump, and it's just football. Or every match that they play, he seemingly thinks they should have won, when often that isn't the case. Sometimes it has been, and they've thrown away points, but often they've also gained a draw from a place of potential losing the game. There's just nothing proactive. There's nothing motivational or inspiring about the guy when he speaks. And it's really, really disappointing. I mean, he's got a golden opportunity now to get this club up, to be sort of like a hero in there. And you're top of the league and fans are calling for you to be sacked. Not all of them, but a pretty vocal, I wouldn't say minority or majority. I'm not sure exactly where the split is. You could let us know where you stand with it. I personally would like to see him succeed and take them up. And maybe, I don't know, then would you maybe reassess? Would you have the confidence, if he scrapes it up by the coattails and you get up, would you have the confidence for him to lead you into next season? Are the board going to actually invest? I know Poundland have closed a lot of shops recently, which would indicate to me that maybe all isn't well financially, and that is another concern, because if you go up, you are going to need investment. But it's clear that Walsall weren't willing to make the investment to go up again, which shows a clear lack of ambition. So as amazing as this season was up until January, I mean, my heart breaks for all those fans. Like, to finally have a good spell for the first time in, God, years now, and it just be ripped so horribly from you. And beyond Lowe, there was chances to rectify it, salvage it, and create new heroes, and Walsall chose to be lazy, not invest, and hopefully just they thought they might be able to coast on what they had, which was foolish and naive. And they really will have let the fans down. And I mean, I know it never happens, but for me personally, I always feel like if you buy a season ticket for a club like that, you fully support them. It is a massive slap in the face where they're not doing their utmost to get the best result. It's almost like they don't want to go up at this point. I can't understand how an owner wouldn't want to put a little bit of money in there. They haven't got the biggest budgets as is. So it just, again, another lack of ambition. Walsall deserve an owner or an ownership model that really want to get them higher up the football pyramid, getting them back to where they belong. Doing some like rejuvenation in the area, help get money back in, get people back in, because Walsall's a great place. It had a lot of closures and various other issues, but it is just a great place. I really wish them well for the rest of the season. I wish all the fans well. I hope you manage to pull through, and the stress doesn't cause you any undue health, heart attacks or panic attacks, and I hope somehow they can pull it round and potentially get back to winning ways and get a little bit more of a gap back to at least finish automatic promotion spaces. The playoffs would just be horrendous. Such a lottery there, and it just seems like that would be just soul destroying. And I'm quite big on fans getting what they deserve, and the Walsall fans deserve to have a team to be proud of, a manager to be proud of, and a board that wants the best for the team, for the club's name, and for the fans. So I'm not going to sing the song, Yellow Ribbons or whatever, but I genuinely hope Walsall pull this round. I hope that they don't rue being lazy in the transfer market, short-sighted. You could blame him going back through halfway through the month, but you could have planned in December to have a body ready to come in early January. Walsall have got no excuses, really. They've let themselves down with the recruitment. They've let themselves down with the lack of ambition. The fans are still loud. They're still supporting, despite offering lower mid-table form. But I genuinely hope the Walsall fans finally have something to cheer about, finally have new heroes to look up to, and next season we'll be starting in League One for the first time in quite a long while, and look forward to maybe consolidating there and just getting back to where Walsall should be. They've been in League Two long enough now, and all the fans and the people involved in the club deserve a bit better. So I think it's on the board to do better, to appreciate the fans that Walsall have got, and to just restore a bit of good feeling within them, because their fans have been let down this season despite being top, which is a bizarre thing to say. But anyway, good luck for the rest of the season, Walsall. Let's get back on top, and let's stay on top and get a lead built again and go up. Good luck to all the Sadlers. Big love to all the Sadlers fans. If you like what I've been doing, if I've got mental health issues, I'm trying to get a bit of self-esteem through doing YouTube videos about things I'm passionate about. If you've liked it or found it informative, could you leave me a like or a subscribe? Anything constructive, criticism-wise, let me know. Try and avoid calling me fat, I'm aware of that. I'm having a back operation soon as well, so I'm not at my best at the moment, but I'm just trying to do things I'm passionate about, and I found that YouTube is something that gives me a bit of a place to try and get a bit of self-esteem, a bit more of life back into me. So yeah, thanks guys for listening, and I wish you all the best on this sunny day, and let's hope for 3 points tonight. Take care. Goodbye.